Hi, I'm Sandy Babb and welcome to my studio. I am participating in the February Fabric Just Junk Journal Challenge with Dear Julie here on YouTube. And I'm not going to be doing the same thing I did in January where I had a lot of tutorials and things as I built the entire book. I'm just going to pop in and out on this one and share just a few select things because I'd like to get through this process fairly quickly. But I did want to share a little tip with you about your scrapbook paper. Now, I don't use a lot of scrapbook paper in my work. I use a lot of vintage papers and other things, but I don't particularly use a lot of scrapbook paper. So when Julie said we could use scrapbook paper for this challenge, I started looking, and I really don't have much, so I didn't have much to choose from. But I did love this crackle paper right here. The only problem with it is it's so pale blue, like it's almost, to me, more leaning toward the baby side of blue. And my fabrics, as you can see for this challenge, are more aqua. You know, they're leaning that way. So I didn't think this was a good color combo, but I knew that I could use some of the allotted things that Julie said we could use in this challenge, and I could change this paper so it's going to blend in. So this paper went from this to this, and you can see there's quite a difference. There's a little greenish in there, there's a little bluish in there, there's a little whitish, there's a little brown. It looks more weathered and aged, but it blends, oops, got my little gloves in there, blends more with this color palette that I have than this does. So we are going to, oh, hang on, I forgot the green ink. Hold on just one second. Sorry about that. Thought I had everything laid out. So here's what you'll need to do this technique. You're going to need your scrapbook paper. You're going to need some wet wipes. You'll need some water, a sponge brush, like a dabbing cloth. Julie said we could use gesso in this challenge, so I have white gesso. I also have some water in a spray bottle. And she said we could use distress inks. So I'm going to be using Antique Linen and Vintage Photo Distress Stain Sprays by Tim Holtz. And then I'm going to use these Dewdrop from Memento, Teal Zeal, and Pistachio. Okay? And I am going to wear gloves. I don't want to try to get this all off my hands. I got to fish my paper out from under here. It fell off. Sorry about that. Okay. Just put something down to protect the surface here. And what we're going to do is we're going to overpaint this paper. And this is one of the easiest ways to do, altering your paper, in a fairly quick manner to get kind of a look that you like. And you might want to start out with just a little piece of it and play with it before you, tackle a whole sheet. But sometimes I do this when I find something that's sort of what I want, but I know I can alter it. Okay? So the first thing I'm going to do is put out a little bit of gesso. Let me shake this down before I'm going to put a little bit of gesso over here to the side. Just a blob. I'm going to mist it just a little bit with my water to kind of water it down. I'm also going to take, this is not a heavy mister, this is a real light mister. I'm just lightly dampening my paper so it'll kind of take that paint. I don't want it wet. I don't want, I'm just lightly dampening it. I'm just kind of wiping that paper around, the paint around. You can even see some of the ink is smearing on this paper, which is kind of weird. But anyways, the first thing we're going to do is get our sponge brush really wet. And I generally leave some of the water in it. Oops, I just got some extra water on my page. Got my thing too full. Leave it about, dampish. And get some of this gesso. I'm going to pick up some of that gesso. And I'm just going to brush it lightly across here. And I don't want it to cover my paper. I want it to dull down that blue. It's a real light, chalky, I'll come in, but you're not going to be able to really see it too much. It's just a light, it's almost like using a watered down chalk paint or something. It's just a real light. This first coat, all it does is dull it a little bit. A little bit more paint. So I'm going to go a little bit further. See how I start out with it thick and I'm spreading it out. And I'm going in one direction because this paper, the crackle is directional. So I'm going to try to stay in my direction here. I am flicking this paper all over the place. Maybe move the water too, because that might be a danger thing for me today. Had a couple spills already. I'm like, oh, it's not a good day to be crafting. Okay, I've got that first little bit down. Now I want to add a little bit of blue and a little bit of green. And the way I'm going to do this is on my, this is just parchment paper, like your baking paper, like you use in your kitchen. I'm just going to take my stamp and stamp down 2 or 3 times. See, I've just made a little place there. Now I'm going to use some of this water. Whoops, there goes my sprays. And make a little bit of a puddle with that. 3 or 4 sprays. And I'm not even going to wash my brush. I'm just going to dip a little bit of that. And I'm going to skim this along to get some of that darker blue in here. And it's going to mix with that white. And I'm just kind of skimming it. You'll see the darker streaks. This is a light process. This isn't, don't be heavy-handed with it. This is a real light process. You don't need it to be super dark, and you don't need a lot, okay? Now, I'm going to do the same thing with the green paint. Green ink. I'm going to stamp on here 3 or 4 times with my pad, with my pistachio, and put a little bit of water on there. And if it's better to go thin and come back and add more than it is to go thick and then come back and go, ooh, wish I hadn't done that. Get a little bit more. I've got so much water in my brush, I think I can just pick that up. It's better to do it in kind of streaks. Like you can tell that I've got a little more green here, a little more blue here, a little more white here. It's just in different spots. It's going to pick up different. Well, and this is pretty. This is pretty, and it will kind of go, but I want to kind of antique it down. So, I'm going to start with the antique linen. And I'm going to put a couple sprays of antique linen on my palette. And I'm going to pick it up with that same, I'm going to widen out so you can see this. I'm going to pick it up with that same brush. And I'm going to gently brush this in sections over this. And this is going to start my antiquing process. And I may have to spray this 2 or 3 times to get enough. You know, spray out on my palette to get enough of what I want. I don't spray it directly on my paper because then I'm going to get that just overspray look, and I don't want that overspray look. So, I am just antiquing this down. And I know it's really kind of hard to tell that it's even doing anything, but I promise you that it is. And now I'm going to go over it again with the darker, with the vintage photo. I'm going to get out quite a bit more of it because I kind of like this darker stain. Now this one, I'm almost going to paint it across in the little areas. And I'm going to take a baby wipe, and this is where you're going to wipe it back some to get back to that, so you can see that green and that blue. I don't want that really super dark. So I'm doing this in little sections, and I'm kind of just, so you can see some of the blue come through there. So I'm kind of doing this. Normally I don't even use 12 by 12 scrapbook papers. I usually try to buy single sheets in those little 8.5 by 11 because I don't use it that much. And mostly it's because I can't find what I want, or I'll find something in a pad and I'll only like 5 sheets of it, and there's like 90,000 sheets of paper that I won't use. And so I'm kind of a little picky about that. And I actually like creating my own papers better. And like I said, I'm doing this directional. You do not have to do this directional. I am, because my page is directional. And you can go back on top of this with some of the color. You can wipe it back even more. Just be careful about your paper getting too saturated. If you think it's getting too saturated, stop in between it and let it dry a little bit and then go back to it. You know, don't pull a hole in the paper or anything. So I've just about got the dark on here all I want. I think that's about all the dark I want. And not to worry, I'll smush some paper on top of that stain over there and let it stain. Actually, I have something else I need to stain, so maybe I can just reactivate it. Okay, let's see how close we are. This has got a little bit more of the white and the blue. So what I did with that was I took a little bit of my blue and stamped it down. And I wet this. Let me get my paper away from there because I don't really want to. I wet this down pretty good. Then I picked up some gesso and some of this, and I mixed it till I got a little bit of that lighter, brighter color. See? I'm getting close to my color palette. So now I'm going to just let my brush drag, and I'm going to drag some bright back into that. And if I don't like the drag marks, just find a little place on here and you pull those out. So I'm going to pick up a little bit more, mix it on my brush, and I'm going to get a little bit more of that bright in here. And I actually want some of the white too, so I'm going to do a little white dragging with just some of the white. And you're going to drag until you get the look you want. I don't like that right there. This is going to dry, and then you just treat it like you would any scrapbook paper. And so if you will give me a second, I'm going to dry this paper, and I will come back and we'll look at it. Okay, this is almost dry. I kind of spilt water over there, so this corner is still pretty wet. But you can see how that drastically changed that from that baby blue to this really pretty. I'm going to try to come in so you can kind of see. You can still see hints of it, but now it has a more antique feel. And I'm not sure if it's showing up on camera. It's kind of hard to tell because it's really bright right now. But I can see the different striations of the inks, of the pale greens and the blues. And this is so much more pleasing to me with my palette. You know, it just looks better to me. So that is just a really quick tutorial on how you can change your paper that you already have using the supplies that Julie allotted us, and give you a different technique to use in your journals. So I'll see you around the studio. Thanks for joining me.